On a bitterly cold December evening, as the city of New York shimmered with festive lights and the streets buzzed with a holiday spirit, one moment would change everything for a young girl, a businessman, and the lives of countless forgotten children. It was a night when a simple promise turned into something much more, something life-altering. It was late evening when the motorcade of Donald Trump slowly wound its way through the icy streets of Manhattan. The city's heart throbbed with the energy of the Christmas season. But there, in the shadows of the towering buildings and under the glow of holiday lights, sat a young girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, her hair disheveled, her clothes ragged, and her small hands clutched a crumpled sign. "I just want a home for Christmas." The car slowed as Trump's sharp eyes spotted the girl sitting alone on the cold, wet sidewalk. The bustling crowd around her barely acknowledged her presence. But something about this moment tugged at him. Something deeper. Something more powerful than any business deal or campaign rally. "Stop the car," he said sharply to his driver. He opened the door and stepped out, the chill of the night air biting into his skin. Without hesitation, he knelt down beside the little girl, his large frame somehow dwarfed by the smallness of her spirit. "Hey there, sweetie," Trump began softly, his voice more tender than anyone might have imagined. "Where's your family?" The girl looked up, her eyes swollen from crying, and shook her head. "Mommy said she would come back." But she didn't. Trump felt his heart break in that moment. This wasn't just any child. This was a symbol of a broken system, a child who had been failed by society, a child who wasn't asking for toys or presents, but something far more precious, a home. Trump reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick roll of $100 bills, extending it toward her. But to his surprise, the girl shook her head, her tiny voice breaking as she spoke. "I don't want money. I just want a home. I want a place to feel safe." That was it. That was the moment. Trump made a decision in his heart that would ripple through his life and the lives of countless others. He would not just give this girl a home. He would give homes to children like her. Not just a roof over their heads, but a chance to thrive, to live, to feel cared for. The next morning, Trump couldn't sleep. The image of that little girl, her eyes filled with innocent hope, stayed with him. The promise he made felt heavy, as though he had vowed to take on an entire world of pain and make it right. But it was a promise he would keep. Trump called his associates, his lawyers, his team. He wasn't going to settle for just giving a donation or sending a check. No, this required more, much more. By noon that day, Trump had made an unprecedented move. He didn't just write a check to a homeless shelter. He didn't simply donate to an existing charity. Instead, he bought an entire building in downtown Manhattan, a lavish, upscale high-rise that had once been home to wealthy tenants who lived in luxury. Trump was going to transform it into something no one could have imagined, a sanctuary for homeless children. Trump didn't want to build a shelter. Shelters were for the forgotten. Trump wanted a home, a real home. The press called it a PR stunt, but that didn't matter to him. What mattered was that the first child, the little girl, had a place to sleep that night, safe and sound. But Trump didn't stop there. He knew this was only the beginning. In the following weeks, the media went wild with the story of Trump's act of kindness. Some called it grandstanding. Some called it an election tactic, but the children who received the homes saw something different. They saw someone who cared, someone who was willing to put his wealth to work for them. Trump didn't just buy one building. He bought 4 more, 5 buildings in total, each one designed to cater to the needs of homeless children. They weren't just houses, they were havens of hope. Each home was equipped with classrooms, recreational areas, medical facilities, and professional staff dedicated to ensuring these children had a shot at a better life. The children who had once been outcasts, who had once walked the streets with no direction, no hope, now had a place to call their own. They had meals, they had education, they had safety, and they had someone who believed in them. As Trump visited these homes, he would speak to the children directly. He would ask them about their dreams, their fears, their aspirations. And in each conversation, one thing became abundantly clear. These kids weren't just looking for shelter. They were looking for someone to believe in them. Trump, for the first time in years, felt like he was part of something greater than himself. Something far beyond his empire, beyond his name. This was his legacy. One evening, Trump walked into one of the homes to find a group of children gathered around, all of them eagerly chatting and laughing. He joined them, sitting on the floor, listening to their stories. One little girl stood out. She was about 8 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that was hard to ignore. She came up to Trump and handed him a crumpled piece of paper. "I made this for you," she said shyly. It was a drawing of a house. Not just any house, but one with a big garden, a swing set, and a dog. And at the door of the house stood a figure. Trump, with his signature hair, smiling down at the children. "Thank you," Trump said, choking back tears. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." That little girl, like so many others, had come to see Trump as a figure of safety, a figure of kindness. He wasn't just a businessman or a politician to her. He was the reason she had a future. Not long after the first wave of homes were established, Trump faced a test unlike any he had encountered before. A rival businessman, someone who had always been at odds with Trump, made a public statement. He accused Trump of only helping children for the publicity, claiming it was a gimmick to win votes and support. The media pounced on the story. Headlines screamed that Trump was no different than any other wealthy elite, only helping to enhance his image. The pressure mounted. For the first time in his life, Trump considered walking away from it all. The whispers, the criticism, the doubts, they were hard to ignore. But then he thought back to the little girl, the one who had asked for a home, not money, the one who believed in him, not for who he was, but for what he was doing. Trump made a decision that shocked the world. He doubled down. He bought more buildings. He donated more. But this time, he did it quietly. No fanfare. No press conferences. No cameras. As the years went on, Trump's involvement with the homes grew. He didn't stop there. Trump made sure that every child who entered his buildings received the education, the support, and the resources they needed to succeed. He worked with local businesses, doctors, and teachers to ensure that these children weren't just surviving. They were thriving. And as for the little girl, she grew up in one of those homes, thriving, excelling in school, and eventually going on to college. Her dream, the one that had started with a simple request for a home, had come true because Donald Trump had kept a promise. In the end, Donald Trump's legacy wasn't about his skyscrapers, his wealth, or his name. It was about the children whose lives he changed, the ones who were given a chance when no one else cared. And to that little girl, now a young woman, Trump had given more than just a home. He had given her a future she never would have had without him. If you believe in the power of kindness, share this story with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe for more incredible acts of kindness, and stay tuned for stories that will inspire you to believe in the power of change.